Marching. Some of us are naturally gifted at it, while many of us are in a constant battle to keep up with the technique. You gotta lift up, get the toes up, keep your drums flat. We all want to get better at it, and today we're gonna learn how to do that. What's up, athletes? Welcome to the Forte Athletics Academy. I'm Coach Daniel, and today we have a super fun lesson plan that will teach you how to analyze the way you walk. This is called the Gait cycle. And if you think of all the people you know, odds are they all walk differently from each other, from the way their foot hits the ground to the way they swing their foot forward. Now imagine if you learn how to analyze and modify the way you walk. You are literally developing a superpower in the marching band world. Now, if you're ready to become the strongest performer on the field, show me you have what it takes by hitting that subscribe button to join our tribe of marching athletes. Now, get set. When we walk, there's a period of time where our foot is on the ground, called stance phase. And this is followed by a slightly shorter period of time where our foot is in the air, called swing phase. Stance phase, we're standing. Swing phase, we're swinging. Got it? Stance phase is broken down into 4 micro phases. The first of which is called the loading response, and it begins the exact moment your foot hits the ground, also known as initial contact. And in marching band, your goal is to time this exact moment to the beat. Not before it, not after it, right on it. If you're walking forward, that moment happens with your heel, and if you're walking, I don't know, sideways or backwards, it will happen on your toes. The purpose of the loading response is to absorb shock. If you don't absorb the shock well, everyone will hear your footsteps in your music. Or if you're a drummer, your drum's gonna bounce, and good luck playing clean on that. So how do we absorb shock? If you're going forward, you do this by rolling your foot from heel to toe. The muscle that controls this is called your tibialis anterior, or your shin muscle, which can be felt by flexing your foot up as high as you can. The function of the tibialis anterior here is to control the motion at the ankle joint, so your foot doesn't slap the ground. We want it to feel smooth and fluid. You can strengthen this muscle by leaning up against a wall, lifting your foot up, and slowly lowering it towards the ground. Start with your feet close to the wall, then gradually progress away from the wall to increase the intensity. Start with 2 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions. If you're marching sideways or backwards, you absorb the shock by staying springy on your toes. The muscles that control this are your calf muscles, which can be felt on the back of your lower leg when you bounce on your toes. You can strengthen your calves by jumping rope for 5 to 10 minutes a day. This will train your foot and ankle to absorb shock while developing strength in your calves. If you're serious about becoming the strongest performer on the field, I will link up the best jump rope for marching band performers down in the description below. Now, we've taken a step, absorbed the shock, and now loading response comes to an end as the opposite foot lifts off the ground, signaling the beginning of microphase number 2, mid-stance. During mid-stance, we are balancing on one leg because the opposite leg is swinging forward. The purpose of this phase is to advance the body weight forward over the standing foot. Now, most problems in marching band occur in this phase right here. Why, you ask? Well, to start, your entire body weight plus the weight of your instrument has just been handed off to a single leg. The extra weight contributes to the tendency to sink down into the hips, but failure to stay lifted during mid-stance makes it look like you're bouncing when you're marching. And it makes it way more difficult to change directions. During mid-stance, the leg function transforms from shock absorption mode into stability mode. This is easiest to do while marching forward because the entire foot is flat on the ground. However, stability becomes a bit more challenging when marching sideways or backwards because the heels stay off the ground, which decreases your base of support, making it harder to balance, like balancing on your tiptoes. You can improve your stability in this position by ensuring that your entire forefoot is on the ground and the heels are slightly hovering off the floor. Now do that with one leg and add the weight of your equipment, and you will quickly understand why many people struggle to maintain good marching technique at this phase. You can improve your stability during mid-stance by practicing balancing on one leg while actively lifting through the hip. You can also practice jumping rope on one leg to further develop your single leg stability and strength. To recap, our foot hit the ground, we loaded the weight onto the leg, we've advanced the body weight across the planted foot, and now mid-stance comes to an end as the heel lifts off the ground, signaling the start of microphase number 3, terminal stance. Terminal stance, which occurs as the heel lifts off the ground, functions as a forefoot rocker to rock the foot forward, much like a rocking chair. The foot is primarily designed for forward motion. However, it does have the capability to rock side to side, which is what happens when we march sideways. Somebody who has poor mobility and stability in this side-to-side plane is at an increased risk of rolling their ankle while marching. Talk about a season ender, you do not want that. But you can strengthen that side-to-side plane of your foot and ankle by performing side shuffles or cross jumps while jumping rope. Now to recap, we started with the loading response, then transitioned into mid-stance, then into terminal stance, and now the final micro phase of stance phase occurs as the foot pushes off the ground, signaling the start of pre-swing. As the name implies, pre-swing prepares the leg for swing phase. And during pre-swing, your calf muscles contract to propel the foot forward. And this typically occurs as your opposite foot is striking the ground. Once the toe leaves the ground, stance phase is done and swing phase has begun. Need a little water break now. That's good stuff. Swing phase occurs as your foot is swinging forward. I know, who would have thought? The two functions of swing phase are to bring the leg forward in the direction of travel and to provide foot clearance from the ground so you don't trip and get run over by a stampede of wildebeests. Rest in peace, Mufasa. The first micro phase of swing phase is called initial swing, and this is when the foot leaves the ground and is carried forward, whichever direction you're traveling. At this phase, your knee will slightly bend and your ankle will dorsiflex up to avoid clipping the ground, because we don't want to disrupt the momentum of the swing. The next microphase is called mid-swing, and this happens when your swinging foot is beside your standing foot. In the marching band world, this is called your crossing count. And this should take place on the upbeat to ensure good foot timing. Hit, cross, hit, cross, hit, cross, hit, cross. If you haven't heard it yet, you're gonna hear it soon. Many people trip and fall during this phase because they've sunk into their opposite leg, which is currently in mid-stance, and their foot clips the ground as a result. So as their body weight is continuing to move, suddenly there's no foot there to catch them and wah! So lift up to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. Once your shin bone is about vertical to the ground, we enter the last phase of swing phase, which is called terminal swing. At this point, the leg is slowing down in preparation to stabilize the limb for that loading response. And once that happens, the cycle repeats. Stance phase begins with the loading response, then moves into mid-stance, then into terminal stance, then into pre-swing, where it then switches into swing phase with initial swing, followed by mid-swing, your crossing count, and ending with terminal swing. Then we just repeat that 80 bajillion more times and we're good. And that's the cycle. Yeah, let's go! So 3 key points to take away from this. 1, your foot timing is dictated by your initial contact. Boom. That happens in time with the beat. 2, if you want good crossing counts, you got to make sure that you are at mid-swing on the upbeat. Hit, cross, hit, cross, hit, cross, hit, cross. And 3, if you want better posture and a smoother glide across the field, you have got to lift up during mid-stance. Now, it's one thing to know what the gait cycle is, but it's another thing to actually put it into practice to the point where you can control each phase. That is the superpower right there. So what you got to do now is go practice walking around the house, walking outside, look down at how your feet are hitting the ground, try to tune in to how your weight is shifting from the back of your foot to the front of your foot. And once you're familiar with your gait cycle, learning how to march will feel so much easier. And with that said, if you enjoyed nerding out with me today, please show your support for the channel by hitting that like button to tell the YouTube algorithm to show this video to the marching band community. And know that I appreciate your support. That is all for today. I will see you next time. Ready and break.